This is a box of Honey Made S'mores cereal. It's pretty good as cereals go. One thing you learn pretty quick when you're a rather repugnant chap such as myself and you're stuck in the forever alone lifestyle is that you have to make most of your own meals. And breakfast, dinner, or lunch, this is handy and quick. I prefer if they didn't show the milk on the cover, but such is life, you can't have everything. Everything should be made of s'mores. S'mores are a very enjoyable thing. One of the things that I perhaps like most about this cereal is that it doesn't preach to me. The health Nazis have, within the past few years, made it such that beloved children's cereal mascots can no longer be shown in commercials because of the idea that they're promoting something unhealthy to children. And today's indulgent and unfit parents haven't learned the ability to say no to their bratty kids. So instead of do that, they have to take all of our cereal mascots away. My friends like Sonny and Tony the Tiger and Trix Rabbit, Dig'em the Frog, all dead, all gone. But at times I think, were they really my friends? I now, looking back, do see the harm that those characters posed, not because of the unhealthy foods that they promoted, but rather the unhealthy messages that they impressed into the minds of an entire generation. And we'll start off by taking a look at a typical Trix commercial, and you'll soon see what I mean.
Dressed as my favorite fruit flavors, I can get close enough to grab that fruity Trix. Hey, man, those tasty Trix flavors can't be beat. Orange is my favorite Trix to eat. The lemon is neat and the grits are sweet.
Check out the fruit.
Those luscious Trix flavors move me down to my feet.
Rabbit feet? Silly rabbit. Trix are for kids. Part of our nutritious breakfast.
And I thought rabbit's feet were lucky.
Before moving on to the next part of the video, I should say that there are some good parents out there who do discipline their kids, are able to say no to them, and if you're one of them, I tip my cap to you. Did not mean to insult you with the previous tirade. But if you are one of the ones who will never say no and who wants General Mills to raise your kids rather than doing it yourself, well, then my earlier remarks are sustained. Speaking of General Mills, when I saw the cereal as a young child, I couldn't read cursive writing yet, and I thought the G was the handicapped sign. And I didn't really understand why there was a wheelchair in the cereal box. I didn't know if it was a cereal that only people in wheelchairs were allowed to eat, or what the situation was. Eventually that got cleared up. I don't remember how, but that's not important. What is important is that we shed light on the darker aspects of the Trix Rabbit and the people he interacts with. There's a certain level of sadism in these commercials. The rabbit just wants Trix, a very simple, humble, relatable goal. Well, not really relatable. I personally don't like Trix, but the point is he's not asking for anything special. He just wants some cereal. But part of it's his own fault. He just can't get out of his own way. Instead of going to the store and buying Trix, he spends his money on those stupid outfits that never work. But if the Trix Rabbit were not so self-defeating, General Mills could never drive home their point. Their point seems to be that the value in Trix lies not in the taste or the flavor or whatever nutrition it gives you, but rather in the delicious taste of having something that other people desperately want but cannot have, and being able to shine it in their face. Silly rabbit, Trix are for pricks.
Morning, guys. Where's the corn pops?
That.
Oh no, 3 days without my Kellogg's corn pops? Stay calm. I'm looking for this box.
Oh, that helps.
Help! I want my corn pops. Oh, like sweet popcorn, you just gotta have more. And these goons have the nerve to invade my home and my stuff and take my corn pops? No!
K14.
I got it. This one's fragile.
Kellogg's Corn Pops is part of this complete breakfast.
I gotta have my Pops.
Well, that was an interesting little journey there, wasn't it? Corn Pops taught people some pretty bad values too, when you stop and think about it. This kid is a victim of her own irresponsibility. If she really cared so much about her beloved Corn Pops, she would have taken them to a safe place so that they would be there when she wanted to have her breakfast the next day. She also didn't seem to understand the difference between a moving company and home invaders. People were there specifically to box up the things and move them away. She didn't seem to understand that, which is kind of sad by the time you're that age. The moving guys did get a bit sarcastic at times, and the way they were looking at the bird was kind of creepy. But other than that, they were just doing their job. And the fact that they were called Corn Pops now, that's a problem too. They used to be called Sugar Pops. The lighter version of Health Nazis that came out in the 70s, early 80s, made them change it to Corn Pops so they would still be marketable. And we wind up with these people who completely just, their lives fall apart if they don't have their favorite cereal. And that this is the message that Post is teaching us. It's not important to retain your composure when things go wrong. It's all right to fall apart and go nuts and have a tantrum and unleash a tornado of anger toward all who are around you if you can't have your precious cereal. But then, once you do get it back, you just have to shrug it all off, pretend that none of it ever happened, and act like you were calm all along, and act as if you had conducted yourself with the proper decorum and dignity and formality that one who has earned the right to eat Corn Pops should show. But Post doesn't want you to do that. It's a lack of irresponsibility. So now we have General Mills through Trix telling us that we should all engage in cruel acts of sadism, and Corn Pops by way of Post, or rather Post by way of Corn Pops, telling us don't try to control your emotions, don't plan ahead, don't understand something as simple as the concept of a moving company. Just live in your own little world where nothing is more important than Corn Pops. Well, this is getting pretty grim, but we still have 4 more to tackle. This next one is a bit different, and that's not technically a cereal. It's for Eggo waffles. And it's wrong on all kinds of levels. I searched high and low to find the worst offending Eggo commercial that I could. And this one took me to some places I wasn't expecting to go. And I think it'll do the same for you.
Lego my Eggo, son.
Eggo waffles are part of this good breakfast.
Morning.
Now, if you were around in the 80s and the 90s, even parts of last decade, you're probably aware of the fact that deceit, particularly among family members, was a recurring theme in Eggo commercials. Usually somebody would trick somebody out of their waffles in some juvenile yet cruel sort of way. But this one takes it to a whole new level. We see a kid so hell-bent on taking his father's Eggos away that he goes into this sort of psychotic plot. We just go on a true odyssey of mental illness, as it seems as though the kid is losing his ability to tell who he is or who his father is, let alone the fact that for whatever reason the father has a mask of himself up in the attic. And the kid stands there looking down at him through the ceiling panes, looking at him with the Eggos, drawing up blueprints, plotting desperately. all that time he wasted, he could have just waited for his father to finish his Eggos, or just taken the box and had some Eggos for himself and toasted it up. His father would have let him do it, as is shown at the end of the commercial. His father walks by and at first doesn't react to the costume. He looks pretty obviously hungover, so it's a bit of a stretch, but I guess I can see him missing that at first if he was drunk enough. But then he sort of does a double take and he's scared. I think I would be scared too if I had a kid who did something like that. The thing is, it didn't bother him that his son was eating his Eggos. He was bothered by the fact that his son was a very disturbed young man. Though it would seem that he was probably denied Eggos in the past. He seems to be familiar with the Lego my Eggo phrase. I've never liked that contraction. It's a very poor, grammatically poor way to speak. It's not catchy, it's not funny, it's not amusing. It's something that they never should have done. But on the other hand, a kid like that, maybe he deserves to be taught contractions that are incorrect. It will set him up for a bleak financial future and poor performance in school, and a life of poverty where he probably can't have his precious Eggos. He'll have to rely on a off-brand version. Serves him right for trying to steal his father's waffles.
We win! Man, Tony, they're tough. You two up for a little game?
We'll take you on after this complete breakfast, including my vitamin-packed Frosted Flakes. They bring out the tiger in you.
Her playing the net, that ought to be good.
Frosted Flakes, good. They're great.
You'll show 'em you're a tiger. Show 'em what you can do.
Big tiger.
The taste of Tony's Frosted Flakes.
Man, can she hit?
Brings out the tiger in you.
And you.
We've already plumbed the depths of the blackness of the souls of Post and General Mills in this most recent commercial. We get to do the same with Kellogg's. Tony the Tiger teaches some very questionable at best lessons and morals to those who watch the commercials. First and foremost, we're taught that it's okay to make fun of tigers or the people they befriend, because the worst thing that a tiger will do if you get it angry is tell you to wait until it's eaten its breakfast, and then it will make you take whatever you said, put it in your pipe and smoke it. No, there won't be any maulings or biting or claws in the picture. Just some good old-fashioned humble pie. Realistic. I think the kid in that commercial eventually played one of the daughters in the Beethoven movies. I guess Frosted Flakes got her where she wanted to go. Morals be damned. It also teaches us that pretty much everyone in the world is cruel and evil and just waiting for a chance to pick on those weaker than themselves to assert their dominance in the jungle or beach, as it may be. But all you have to do is have a balanced breakfast, and for as far as that goes, nobody ever eats a breakfast like that. I've never in my life witnessed a breakfast that complete. But apparently all you have to do is eat that. Then that will give you the athletic prowess to overcome even the most talented of cruel sports people. And you will have your pride. Theirs will be shattered. Then it will be your turn to confidently strut the beach and make fun of people who have tigers for friends. So we're 2/3 of the way in now. 2 more commercials to go. And there's kind of a disturbing trend I notice in both of them. And these are 2 of the more cruel-natured of the commercials we've done so far. First one's for Lucky Charms. And, well, just watch the hate flow.
Uh-oh, those kids are after me, Lucky Charms. But thanks to me red balloon, I've made a clean getaway. Well, looky there, a shooting star, and it's heading this way. A deserted island. Well, at least I can eat me Lucky Charms in peace.
Wow, they're marshmallowy delicious.
Oh no, more kids! I've got to get away. But how? There's a big star-shaped hole in my balloon. Maybe there's an answer in my magic rainbow. Let's see. Moons, hearts, diamonds, stars. Oh, did I say stars? Magic rainbow, make a match. Turn that star into a patch. Take me away, star balloon. Whoops.
Yay!
Kids, now for the first time ever, it's a marshmallow inside a marshmallow.
The stars in the balloon.
Wow.
Doubly delicious.
It's the magical part of a complete breakfast.
New in specially marked boxes of Lucky Charms.
Lucky is one of the most tragically unlucky characters in the history of the world of cereal, or almost any fictitious or factual media display of all time. He just, all he wants to do is bring his cereal to whoever he's taking it. It's even worse with the Trix rabbit, because at least the Trix rabbit doesn't have the cereal, doesn't belong to him, whereas Lucky has his possessions taken from him all the time. And we seem to have, well, the cruelty of the children is very apparent, and their willingness to just rob poor Lucky of his Lucky Charms is ever apparent. They have no compunctions about doing such a heinous act. So then he briefly, for once, it looks like things are going to turn out okay for him because he gets away in his balloon, only to have a shooting star hit his balloon. And he lands on a desert island, and for some reason there's 3 more kids there who immediately swoop in to try to take his Lucky Charms. It's kind of cruel that they named him Lucky. It's the most bitterly ironic name possibly ever given to anyone. And he almost manages to get away using his leprechaun magic, and he floats away in his balloon, only to be undone at the very last second by his own clumsiness. Knocks over his box of Lucky Charms, and then the little leeches grasp it and let out the most poorly executed, synchronized yay that I have ever heard. So what do we learn from this? We learn that everybody is out to steal from you, and you shouldn't try to stop them. The weak must fall to the strong, even if the strong happen to be children and you as an adult are the weak one. It's just survival of the fittest, but it hits you with the power of an atomic bomb. It really does. Poor Lucky is never going to get to eat a cereal. He seems to just accept this fate in life as he sails away in the balloon, yelling that it's part of a complete breakfast. He's defeated, he knows it. He's not going to do another magic spell to get his cereal back. He knows he's just not able to do it. We also learn that it's okay to plug Irishmen as leprechauns, and that it's okay to tease midgets and bully them. No, it's not just okay, it's even profitable. Who would have such garbage in their soul, such cruelty pumping through their veins, to promote this idea to an entire generation? Little People, Big World was a show that probably had a chance to do something about that, to speak out against the bad things about Lucky Charms, but they didn't do so. Maybe they were under some sort of gag order, maybe they were paid off, who knows. But nobody ever stood up to those rotten kids, and nobody's ever going to. Though, I guess in a way, General Mills kind of gets back at them by lying about there being 2 marshmallows in one marshmallow. It's just one marshmallow that's died differently in different locations. But most kids, I guess, were gullible enough to fall for that and think they're getting 2 items for the price of 1, even though they weren't. Well, now we're going to move on to the last and probably the most inhumane of all the commercials. This one is for Cookie Crisp, and it speaks for itself.
Okay, Chip, when you hear the Cookie Crisp train, give me the signal. Okay, boss. Cookie Crisp can't resist Cookie Crisp cereal. Cookie Crisp. That's a well-trained dog. Now with extra chips, Cookie Crisp, here we come.
Hey, can you get a drop in, boys? Too bad you won't be enjoying any Cookie Crisp cereal. A delicious part of this nutritious breakfast.
Doggone it.
No other cereal tastes like this. Cookie Crisp.
It's obvious at this point that I need to have a sound and lighting manager for this channel, as I'm not doing a very good job of that myself. I can only afford to pay you in cereal and saltines, but you can put it on your resume that you worked for the most irrelevant YouTuber out there. People will be impressed by that. Or at the very most, they'll read it and realize that they read it and then move on. But still, it will have happened. So this last commercial kind of goes at the Black Irish. They're not insinuating that all Irish are leprechauns, but they're either leprechauns or police officers. And this Cookie Crisp police officer is certainly a corrupt one. This whole Cookie Crisp train ruse is the very definition of entrapment. He says himself that the Cookie Crook can't resist Cookie Crisp. He knows he will try to steal it. He's just trying to bait him into a crime. And that's some corrupt law enforcement right there. Cookie Crook lives a very sad life. Like all these other characters, he just wants to have cereal, and that's all there is to it. But it seems as though he can't even afford it, based on his wardrobe and the fact that he's human, so there's nothing really stopping him from going out there and getting a normal job and buying the Cookie Crisp for himself. But he must be a very disturbed fellow. It becomes even darker when you watch them getting ready to blow themselves up at the train track. It makes you wonder if they weren't really trying to board the train after all, if they were just trying to blow themselves up and hoping that they would find themselves in heaven, and that's where they would get their Cookie Crisp at long last. But instead, they're trapped in their miserable lives. They come crashing through the roof of the caboose of the train to see Mr. Corrupt Black Irish Cookie Cop. You know, if I were Irish, I would be very upset that my people were being so negatively portrayed by the cereal industry. And I guess they should have done something about that. Maybe they did in Ireland, I don't know. But I personally don't like all these attacks on the Irish. But anyway, they land in there, and he brags about how they're not going to be getting any Cookie Crisp. He doesn't even bother to arrest them this time. Usually he arrests them and there's some sort of a really sad attempt at a pun, and they're carted off to jail. This time, their punishment just seems to be having to sit there and watch the cop dine on the cereal that they want more than anything else but can never have. And with that, our tour into some of the darker morals preached by cereal commercials of the 80s and early 90s comes to an end. It was certainly a tragedy, not a comedy. And perhaps it truly is for the best these characters are no longer present in our lives. Sometimes it's the ones you trust most, the ones you hold most dear, who are going to hurt you the most. I mean, it's just you and me, honey, made s'mores. It's just us alone in this crazy world against all the vultures out there looking to take what is ours, being trained by the evil minds at General Mills, at Post's, and at Kellogg's. And, well, this cereal actually is from Post, so maybe Post had a crisis of conscience, wanted to turn it all around. Maybe they aren't going to be around for much longer, so they wanted to have sort of like a corporate deathbed repentance conversion over to the light. And that's why they're now arming us with good cereals that not only feed our stomachs, but feed our minds as well. I'll leave you to reflect on all these lessons and to try to pick the pieces that now are surely blasted across the room now that your childhood friends have been revealed for who and what they truly were, and that the cereals, even if they didn't make you fat, sure went a long way in creating a lot of mental illness in the world, while allowing the big cereal distributors and all the pharmaceutical companies and psychiatrists out there to line their pockets all the thicker. Well, that's my 2 cents. Good night.